Hello, we're going to start with a Class A pre-trip on an automatic truck. We're going to look at the clearance lights, turn signals, four-way flashers, marker lights, running light, high and low head beams, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, amber or clear in color, working properly. Next, we're going to look under it for any leaks. I see no evidence of any leaks. I also look and see that the truck is sitting nice and level, not leaning to the left or right, which would indicate a tire or suspension problem. Now we're going to go ahead and go to the driver's side of the truck, or sorry, the passenger side of the truck. We're going to lift the hood. Here in the passenger side engine compartment, we're going to look at all the hoses. I see no evidence of any abrasions, bulges, or cuts on any of the hoses. They're all properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, and I don't see or hear any leaks. Next, we're going to look at the coolant reservoir, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, not leaking. The cap is present and tight. It's filled to the proper operating level. We're going to go ahead and go to the driver's side on this automatic truck. Again, we're going to start with a brief overview and look at all the hoses. They all look to be properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. I see no evidence of abrasions, bulges, or cuts. I see and hear no leaks. Next, we're going to check the engine oil. There's the fill cap. Here's the dipstick. In order to check the oil, we would pull the dipstick out, wipe it off, stick it back in, pull it back out, read the level, make sure it's at the proper operating level. Now we're going to look at the four engine components. We're going to start with the alternator right here. It's properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. The wires at the back of it are not worn, torn, cut, or frayed. It is belt driven. The belt is not worn, torn, cut, or frayed. And when pushed in the center, it deflects no more than 3/4 of an inch. Directly below that is the water pump. It's properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. I see no leaks. It too is belt driven. Again, the belt is not worn, torn, cut, or frayed, and when pushed in the center, deflects no more than 3/4 of an inch. Next up, we have the air compressor and the power steering pump. They are both gear driven. They're both behind the frame rail on these trucks. You cannot really see them, but you can point back to where they are located. The air compressor is properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. I hear no leaks. Power steering pump's properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, and I see no leaks. We're gonna come back up to the front here. The power steering reservoir is properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, not leaking, filled to the proper operating level, and the cap is on tight. All the power steering hoses are properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. I see no abrasions, bulges, or cuts, and I don't see any leaks. Next, we're gonna go to the steering shaft. Properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. Connected by U-joints, and the bolt is present and tight. The U-joints are properly greased. Next, you've got your steering gearbox, properly mounted and secured to the frame, not cracked, damaged, or loose. Next, you have 5 components that make up your steering linkage. They are the pitman arm, the drag link, the steering knuckle, the tie rod, and the tie rod end. They're all properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose, held in place with castle nuts, locked in with cotter pins that go through them. Next, we're going to go to our suspension. Our front and rear leaf spring hanger, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. Our leaf springs are all properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. They're not shifted. They're not misaligned, and they're not missing. Again, here's your front leaf spring hanger. Here's your rear leaf spring hanger. Your U-bolts, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. The 4 nuts on the bottom are present and tight. Then you've got your shock absorber, properly mounted and secured at the top and bottom. It's not cracked, damaged, or loose, and has no leaks. Now we're going to go to our brakes. On the front axle of a truck, there's only one brake hose and a single brake chamber. This is a service brake only on the front axle. So again, brake hose is properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. No signs of abrasions, bulges, or cuts. I don't hear any leaks. It's attached to the brake chamber with the proper coupling. The brake chamber itself is properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. It is secured with a band or clamp. Next we have the slack adjuster and push rod. The slack adjuster is upside down here, is what it looks like. They're all properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. When pulled by hand, they move no more than 1 inch with the brakes released. Now we're going to go to our brake drums, our brake shoes, pads, linings. They call them all kinds of things. They're both properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. The brake drum has no illegal welds. The brake pad is not worn dangerously thin to less than 1/4 of an inch. There's no signs of oil, dirt, debris, or grease. Next, we're going to look at our tire. Both the inner sidewall and the outer sidewall are properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. Have no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. The face of the tire is wearing nice and evenly. Has a minimum of 4/32 tread depth. Next, we have our valve stem. It's properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. The cap is present and tight. It is not leaking. In order to check the air pressure in the tire, I have an air pressure gauge inside the door. I make sure that the tire is at its proper operating level. Next, the rim is properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. Has no illegal welds. And then you see the lug nuts are all properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. All are present and tight. There's no signs of looseness, which would be a rust trail or shiny threads. Then you go down to the hub oil seals, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, damaged, or loose. All bolts are present and tight, and there's no leaking. That concludes section A of the pre-trip on a automatic truck here at 160 Driving Academy, Nashville.